Not going to take up Jenny's time. I think she needs no introduction. I think we all are very familiar with all of Jenny's many talents, and I am turning everything over to her. Jenny, I'm going to launch the PowerPoint, and then you just let me know when you want me to switch to change slides, okay?
Okay, that's cool. I even had my little clicker. I was going to try that today. All
Um,
right. Today we're going to learn how to, oh, you want to turn it into a slideshow probably,
yeah, I gotta move this out of the way. Now I can do it. Okay, come on. There it is. And from the beginning, there you are.
okay. I will say up front, the easiest way for all of you is to use the template that will be coming with the guidelines next week and open up that template file and just type into that file. However, comma, if you have already written your story, you cannot copy and paste because it destroys all of the formatting in the template, in the blank template, which is why we're going to show you how to manually do your own template this time. Next one, please. The first thing you want to do is open whatever your document is. If you've already typed your entire submission, highlight your entire story with your mouse. And most of you know how to do that, but if you don't, put your cursor to the left of the first the first character in the whole piece. Hold your left mouse down, highlight the entire. Go back one, Mike.
I did.
Uh, Hold down the entire thing. Let go on your left mouse. It should stay gray the way my example does on the left-hand side. Next slide. Now you want to go to the drop down. You want to go to your layout tab, and you can see it's underlined up there. Go over where the red arrow is, click on that little downward V under margins. And for those of you who don't know, that little V indicates that there's a drop down menu. If you see a little like box with an angled arrow, like down on the last line of this slide, that indicates that there's a pop-up menu. So those are ways that you can expand what's already on your screen. Next slide. This is what you'll get when you click on that custom margins at the bottom. This is the thing that'll pop up. And it gives you all of the different preset margins. But I want you to click on custom margins at the bottom of that pop-up menu. Next slide. You'll see a pop-up menu called Page Setup. The default is the first one, but if it's not, you want to click on your Margins tab. You're going to set all of your margins, top, bottom, inside, and outside at 1/2 inch, 0.5 inches. The one thing that a lot of people miss when they're putting a book together is the gutter. The gutter's that space in the middle of the pages that you need for when the pages open and turn over and roll over so you don't get words falling into that opening where your pages all go together. So your gutter needs to be 0.3 inches. The default is left. The position for the gutter is left, but if not, you just leave that. Make sure that you're in a portrait format, of course. Under the pages, you want to click on the little arrow next to the box. And I couldn't make it pop up, but one of your options is mirror margin. And that means obviously that the pages on the left will have the gutter in the right, and the pages on the right will have the gutter on the left. Apply to the whole document. And then you want to click on the paper tab. Next slide. On the paper tab, you're going to set your paper size is 6 inches wide and 9 inches high. You don't have to set the box that says custom size. You can go down and you can click on your little arrow and select it, but you don't have to. It'll automatically do that. You don't need to pay attention to the page sources. That varies depending on what your individual printers are. So I don't have any instructions for that. But once again, you want to make sure that you go down to the bottom of the screen and apply to the whole document. When you have all of that set, You also don't have to type the inches character. You can just do 6 and 9 and it knows you're talking about inches. So go to the layout tab. The layout tab, I want your sections to start with a new page. And there's different options, but the one I want you to select is new page. You want to do the little buttons that say different, odd, and even, and different first page. Those are for your headers and your footers. Set your header and your footer areas each at 1/2 inch, 0.5 inches. You want your vertical alignment to be top. And again, at the very bottom, you want to apply to the whole document. When you get all of that done, if you want to know why you're setting your headers and footers even and odd in the first page, I'll tell you, but right now you really don't need to know. It's just something I need you to do. When you get all of that done and you've got all three of those tabs set the way these last three slides told you to do, you click on OK at the bottom of that pop-up menu, and it will take you back to the next screen. Now your document looks like it does on the side. You're still all highlighted and everything. If for some reason during all of that process you've lost the highlighting, you need to go back and re-highlight the entire document again before we go to the next step. You're still going to be on your layout page. Now we're going to look over at the spacing section. You'll see where I've got the red arrow. You want to make sure that under the indent section, both the left and the right boxes say 0. And in the before and after boxes, you want to make sure that they say 0. The after box is really important, particularly for the prose writers, because that's where you eliminate that space that word loves put between each paragraph. And I hate them. So you want to really make sure that those before and afters are 0s. Then you want to go to the next slide, Mr. A. With your text still highlighted, you're going to go down underneath the spacing box and you're going to either type Times New Roman in the font box, or you can click on the little downward arrow and scroll down and select Times New Roman. You want your font size, which is the next box, to be 12. There again, you can either highlight what's already in there and retype it, or you can click on the little pop-up menu V and go down and select 12. Either one works just fine. Next slide. Now you'll notice that your font is different. Now it's the font now, I had it set for Calibri so you could see the difference. Once you change it to Times New Roman, your entire document will change to the Times New Roman font. Now you want to click on the expanded menu link. See my red arrow down there. Remember I told you that little box with the arrow means that there's more hidden options under there. So I want you to you'll go over and click on that box, on that little linky there under the spacing options, and you'll take you to the next screen. You've got two options under this. Now you've got a new paragraph pop-up screen. The default should be indents and spacings, but if not, start on that one. You want your alignment to be justified. That's for the prose writers. Poetry writers, you can set it as justified, but as most of you know, once you hit the enter key, it stops your line wherever you hit that enter key. So this is more important for my prose writers than the poets. The outline level, you can leave it at whatever the default is, or you can set it to body text if you want. Make sure just again that your indentations are left and right. Left and right are still 0s, and they should be because you set that at a different place. Now the special, that's asking you where you want your first line or all of your lines to be indented. Right now I want you to select none. And the by, of course, you just want it to be empty. Come down to the spacing box. there again, you've already set that in a previous screen, just verify that they both still say 0. And for my prose writers, it needs to be double spacing. Poetry writers have an option, and I spell that out in the guidelines. Poets have an option of setting their spacing however they want it. I know some of you like everything to be single space. Some of you want it space and a half. Some of you choose 1.3 or whatever under the multiple. So poets can set that to whatever they want their poem to be. I think the standards are single, double, 1.5 exactly, which means I want it to be exactly 17.5 points or something like that, and multiple. I use the multiple a lot because it spreads things out. Like I'll use a 1.1 or a 1.2. It spreads the single lining out just a little bit vertically, but not as much as 1.5. 1.5 is one of their defaults. So you can play with that, but that's how you play with it. Next slide. Now on that same, you're going to go over to you're still in the paragraph pop-up menu, but you're going to go over to the line breaks. Prose writers, you need to make sure that the don't hyphenate is set. And unclick widows and orphan control if it happens to be checked. I prefer not hyphenating at all, both prose and poets, but I won't reject it if my poets insist on hyphenating things. Prose writers, I prefer you not to hyphenate things. Now, before you click on OK or anything, you've got one more step. You're going to go down and click on the tabs button down in the lower left part of the screen where my red arrow is. And that'll take you to the next pop-up screen. We're using a 0.35 indent for all of your paragraphs. There again, prose writers, other than your first paragraph in any section, first paragraph of the piece and the first paragraph under any section break. All of the others are going to be with an indent of 0.35 inches. So up in that tab stop position box, you type 0.35 inches. You want the alignment to be left. You don't want any leaders on it. And then you go down and you click on the set button. Once you've done that, you click on the OK button. And you'll see the next screen. Now your document should look like, I gave you two pages so you can see. You'll see that the first paragraph, Jack was cold, isn't indented. Jack wasn't sure what day it was isn't indented because that's after a scene break. All the rest of the paragraphs are indented that 0.35 inches. As you're typing, when you come down, all you have to do, if you're retyping this, is hit your tab key when you're ready to start that next paragraph, and it'll automatically give you that 0.35 inch indent. Next screen. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and it's a really, really good thing to use. Most of you know the left, center, right, and full justification icons. But the one other option that a lot of people don't know about in that blue box that I did is that backward looking P. And that is a reveal codes icon. And it toggles on and off. When you click it on, and you'll see what it looks like when we get to the next screen. When you want it to go away, you just click it back off again. So it's on and off. All of those that I highlighted in that box are on and off. So go to the next screen, please. This is what it's going to look like when you put your reveal codes on. Now, there's a couple things in here I did on purpose that I do not want you to do. Notice the red dots, the line of red dots in the Only in My Dreams and the By and the Jenny Margotto line. Do not do that. You need to use the center icon. Go back one screen and just show them what the center icon is again, please, Mike.
Say that again, Jenny. I'm sorry.
Go back one screen.
Okay, will do. Got it.
Take your mouse over or your cursor over and show them where the centering icon is in that blue box.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah. All right, now go back to the next screen, please. If you want to highlight your title, the word by, and your name, highlight those 3 lines and click on the centering box. Do not manually space things over. Poets, yeah, I'll let you get away with when you get down into the body of your poem, yes, I'll let you manually space. But those first 3 lines, everybody needs to center them. You'll notice if you look at the end of the first line and the second line of text, you see those P's, they're now red. I made them red so you could see them. What that indicates is that you hit the return key instead of allowing Word to do an automatic wrap. Word is really smart. It'll wrap it where it needs to know it needs to go. It'll automatically take you to the next line. And it's so you do not hit enter at the end of your line. If for the prose people, this is like I said, this is more prose, but you should only ever see that paragraph. What that backwards P means, it's indicating that it's starting a new paragraph, telling you that you've hit your enter key. You should only ever see those backwards P's when you actually want that whatever you're typing to end and you want to start another line. The only time they should be there. Same thing with the 3 stars for the scene break. There again, don't manually space it over. You want to just highlight your 3 stars and hit the center and it'll automatically center it for you. You also don't want, you'll notice where I've got the red on the second page, you'll see there's the red P's between the paragraphs. Make sure you don't have any spaces between your paragraphs. The little arrow pointing to the right by the paragraphs, that indicates that you used your tab key. That's all it's telling you. Next slide, please. I know I'm harping on stuff, but these are the things that I get headaches fixing. So the final thing is poets have the option of deciding where they want their pages to break if their submission is more than 1 page. Because I have learned you ladies, most ladies, there are some men too, are very, very particular about how you break from 1 page to the next. In order to do that, do not just hit your enter key until you get to where you want to go. When you get to the bottom, whatever you want the last line to be on, let's say the first page of your poem, and you want to make sure that the rest of it breaks to the next page, put your cursor at the end of that last line of text, go to your layout tab and hit the little icon that shows breaks. It's up in the upper left-hand corner, Mike. You'll get this pop-up screen. I want you to choose page breaks, the first option for page. That'll manually force the what's remaining of your poem or the next page of your poem to the next page. Don't just hit your enter key till you get there. Section breaks, don't use the section breaks. If anybody wants to know, I'll explain the difference, but for right now, you don't need to know it. My prose writers probably don't even need to put a section break in because we're usually not quite as particular about where something breaks. Unless you have something that maybe you've got only 1 line of text under a section, the little 3 stars that indicate the scene break, and you might want to make sure that it starts, but you don't even really need to worry about that. I'll take care of that when I am formatting prose. Prose is much, much easier than the poetry. And then once you're done with all of that, you can just go back up and click that reveal codes P again, and you'll go back to clean looking text the way it's supposed to be. Next screen. So important do's and don'ts. I will repeat myself. Do not manually center lines. Use the centering icon. Do not manually force text to the next page. Use the page break. Do not use the space bar to indent your paragraphs. Set your tab key. The reason for that is you think you're being really, really careful, and some of you are 5 spaces every single time, but every once in a while I get 6 or I get 4, and then if I decide that I want a different indent, I can go in and very, very easily change the indent. Those are for the space bar for indenting is mostly for my prose writers. There again, poets, I know if you want to do, some of you like to do a kind of a stair step sort of a thing, you can use your space bar for that. So that I will allow. Do not have blank lines between your paragraphs except for your scene break. Or except if you have a line or two, the poets at the end of a page, you maybe will have some blank lines there if you want to force your poem to go to the next page. And I think there again, your computer is not a typewriter. Please only put 1 space at the end of a period, not 2. Although that's a minor issue because it's really easy to go in and just take them all out when I get the book put together. But some people, some of your other submission places may reject you if you put 2 spaces after a period. So try to get in the habit of learning to only put 1. And don't use your word software like it's a typewriter. Use the icons, use the tools, use what's available. Don't manually try to fix all this stuff because it makes my life 97,000 times easier and you will not drive me to drink. Next slide. That's it. So remember, it'll be easier to use the template, but if you've already typed your submission, now you know how to go back and turn it all in to so it looks like you used my template. I kept trying to change the color of the text on that slide for my email address, and I could not get it to change. It looked just great, and every time I saved it, it went back to orange. But you all know my email address. It's just jennymargata@mail.com. Hopefully this covered a lot. I know we went really, really quickly, but if not, send me an email and ask me what your question is. Tell me what your problem is. When I'm editing, most of you know I prefer to respond by email, but if I can't resolve it and you still don't understand what I'm trying to tell you, we'll set up a time to talk on the phone. But I prefer that at least you email me to begin with, because then I'm not interrupted working on somebody else's precious book. So that's it for me.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to make sure that we get the hard copies and we can print them out. Because that was a lot for 6 o'clock at night.
Yes, you're going to get, like I said at the beginning, you will get, Mike's recording this, so he's going to send a link for the recording. You will get the PowerPoint as a PDF so
Okay.
that you can print the whole thing out and go step by step and look at it again. Plus you will get it will be blank. I'll type a couple of words in it so you know that it's there. But you will also get the template that all of these steps just created.
Good.
So if you haven't already typed your work, you can just open up the template and just go from there.
That was excellent.
What was the date for the anthology?
Mike Rath will begin accepting submissions on the 15th of February. The deadline is the 15th of June.
It's a good stretch of time.
You can have 3 submissions. Each of them can be up to 5,000 words long. And there is a $15 submission fee for each submission.
And I saw Janice said there's so much information, and we understand that, but you're going to get that sheet that'll show all the slides that she just gave you, and you can go at them one at a time at your own pace.
Okay, good.
And
How
I
many
would
words
suggest
was that,
you
Jenny?
hold on to it because it'll be a good tool for you to use for, other things that you're writing when you're submitting in according to specific guidelines.
The cutoff is 5,000 words?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's particularly important that the poets use the 6x9 page with the 0.3 gutter, because otherwise I end up oftentimes having to break your lines, and then I get people who are upset with me. They don't, children's brain does not break poet lines the way poets want them to break.
You
That
know,
was
it's so much
excellent.
smarter to have them present to you what they want it to look like. And then you're set.
One thing that we didn't say is poets poets are required to submit their submissions in two different formats. One format is a Word document. That makes it editable. Hey, it's dinner time.
Incredible.
But you also are going to submit that in a PDF, because that way, if I still run into any questions about where things need to go, and sometimes passing Word documents back and forth via email, Word corrupts the formatting anyway. So once you have it the way you want it in your Word document, you save that Word document, same name, same title and everything, but save it as a PDF and submit them both. That way, if I have any questions, I can print out that PDF version and I can see exactly the way you wanted it to be.
Any other questions for Jenny for this first part of our meeting?
Look, it's a big audience tonight.
You're popular.
Yay.
It's nice to see this many people interested in submitting. This is awesome.
Yeah, I have a question. If it's,
Yeah,
can you hear
sure.
me? Okay, with the submissions, again, 5,000 words per submission, so you could have up to 15,000 words if you submitted 3 items. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
But that doesn't mean that you can have 3 different consecutive chapters in your book.
what?
They need to be 3 separate pieces.
Right.
They're going to
Yeah,
be
I know.
scattered in the book.
Name them differently and claim that they're something else. Huh? Hey, see, I hadn't thought of that, Jenny. Now you put that in my head for maybe someone else's anthology.
Because, well, for one, I'm scattering them, and so it wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any cohesion between them. But
mhm.
Can it be previously published work?
no, well, it can be previously published so long as it has not been published in any HDC publication or any CWC statewide publication.
So no literary reviews.
No ink slingers, no previous anthologies. If you've read it at open mic but it hasn't been printed anywhere, you can submit it. But if it's in print anywhere within the CWC, well, just say in print anywhere within the entire CWC organization, you're not eligible to submit it again to this anthology. But we're really looking for new work.
I think it's Cheryl.
Cheryl, you're let's see.
There we go.
Yep, that took care of it. Okay, we are going to switch gears, and Mike, Raph, and I are going to take over, and we are going to talk to you guys about critique groups. And we hope this is going to be fun. So here, let me launch this.
Ta-da.
Can everybody see that?
Now we can.
Now you
Now
can.
you can.
Okay.
Let me clean my glasses off and I can see it then.
All right. So we're going to talk to you about critique groups. And this is one where I'd like everybody to unmute yourselves because we're going to want some feedback on this. So who should be in a critique group? You should be in a critique group. If you are not in one already, you should be in a critique group. I think I'm currently in 4 different groups in our club.
My.
And every one of them is so helpful to me. I've been in critique groups for the last 35 years, consistently, never had a break between critique groups, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's been the most important part of my writing experience. So why do a critique group? So before I show you what I've written down, some of you tell me what's the best thing a critique group does for you.
The sounding board is an awesome group of real community.
A
Different
what?
perspective.
Different perspective is what I was going to say too. A different set of eyes sees different because we see it from our own experiences.
Yeah. And we often don't see our mistakes. We just, to us, it sounds right.
Unless you're Richard and you
Saying what
don't
we
make
used
any
to say doesn't
mistakes.
mean that's what we said.
We're writing fiction again. No, I think it's a collective intelligence that happens when there is a group, because everybody reads and brings everything they are to a reading and to their interpretation of it. And so everybody sees things differently, and you get all of these wonderful perspectives that you just cannot do by yourself unless you're schizophrenic or have multiple personalities.
Yeah, and speaking of that, no, I'll jump right in. No, one of the reasons that I thought it would be a good group, the sounding board, is that fact that when you go to sell your or present your book, your writing, whatever, almost always, correct me if I'm wrong, but I won't listen, that you will have to do part of your book, part of your reading yourself. And so, you know, if you get up there and you're selling your book and you're going, and the dog jumped over the moon, you know, how many people are going to buy your book? But if you get up there and you go, hey, that cat just did whatever, or something like that with a dialect. And one of the things is not to puff up her anymore, but Janice is really good with dialect and presentation. So is Danza. What's her?
Daisha.
Daisha. Yeah. So I think that's very important. So that's my input.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just a really good place. Plus, you get to know some people in the club. Over time, you develop relationships, which are very, very helpful. So here's what I put, and it's not nearly as good as what you guys just said, so please excuse me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good at that one.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
true.
It's so embarrassing. I'm in a critique group with Richard Zone, and he's so gracious because I make the same mistakes over and over
Over.
and over again. And he never says, "Come on, Mike, get with it." You know, he's so nice.
I think I've been misspelling the same 5 words for 25 years.
Yeah. Oh, mine is words that I make 2 words that should be 1 word, you know, things like that. But he's always very calm and gracious with me. So what happens in a critique group? In a positive critique group, you'll have the opportunity to have fellow writers support you and help you raise the quality of your writing. They will comment on everything from punctuation to plot. One of the things I learned putting this presentation together is that sometimes it's important for us to tell the group we're in what exactly we want from their critique. You know, if you're having trouble with plot line, let your group know that's something you're interested in getting help with. But be open and be upfront. Some people get they get their feelings hurt because they're not getting what they want, but then they never were clear and communicated that to the group. So always let the group know what you want. Okay, here I'm going to turn it over to Mike Raff. He is our chairman of our critique groups, and he's going to go over the guidelines with you.
okay. We went over the guidelines, and they are on our website, our branch's website at hdcwc.com. And you click on the left bar where it says critique groups, and it mentions a little bit about critique groups, and then in blue font it says something about the guidelines. You click on there and you get all this information. Okay, but you do have to be a member of this branch to be in our critique group. And the goal is to obviously, to improve our writing skills. And we recommend not to have more than 8 members. That's a lot, okay?
That's a ton.
What, an hour? Oof.
I think 3 or 4 is a good number, but
Yeah.
sometimes you want more. Depends on how much time you spend too. Each group can decide when, where, and how often they meet, whether it's Zoom or live. A lot of our groups are live now. And the meeting place could always rotate. It doesn't always have to be at Lorelai's house. You know, you could have it at Tom's house or Suzanne's house, whatever.
Hint, hint.
Yeah. Before committing to join a critique group, members are advised to attend and observe at least one time. You don't have to, it's not our plan, but it's very helpful. It might not be a good fit for you. 6.
Okay, somebody has music going on.
Oh, sorry. My cell phone, sorry.
It's all
That's
right.
okay.
It's all right. Catch your cell phone. Number 6 is that if the group agrees at least 1 week before the critique meeting, each member is to email their submissions to the other member to review. That way you got about a week to spend. And if you got 3 or 4 members, that means 3 or 4 critiques. 7, now we suggest 2,500 words. You can go. I've been in critique groups where people take a little advantage. You know, I had like 5,000 words, and that's a lot of work. You know, so consider that. Okay, when you set up a critique group, these things can be gone over a little bit. I know Tom is just starting out on a critique group, and it'd be a good idea to go over these things. Number 8, the members will read, analyze, and come prepared. Okay.
Can I say something here?
Sure.
This is really important, I think. I'm in a critique group for writing children's books. And I have a conflict. I had a conflict last week. I couldn't make the meeting, but I'm committed to be in the group. So
Oh, we kicked you out, Mike.
Surprise.
okay, thank you for telling me that. On the recording.
Keep it a secret, yeah.
On the recording. Thank you for telling me that. No, but what I did just to make sure that I was holding up my end, I took everybody's submission that's submitted to me and I typed out a critique and emailed it to each of them. So this is a team effort. And if you're part of the team, do your part. Don't leave the group hanging.
I have a question with that.
Yeah.
If you're in a critique group, such as, and you have, 2 or 3 pages, single, whatever, are we supposed to edit it?
No, you critique it.
So that doesn't mean edit, because if we get 4 or 5 pages each and you have 8 pages, that's like going back to college, and I'm not wanting to do that.
Well, as an editor, I will comment on that. You might want to, circle words that are misspelled, or if you notice that, there's an opening quotation marks missing on dialogue, that kind of thing. If you notice them, I would at least circle them. But you don't have to get involved in, every single comma shouldn't be here and it should be there. And that's I think that's what the editing process does. Whether I'm the editor, whether you let Word be the editor, whoever's going to be editing it, don't get so bogged down in the critique group itself, editing those minor things. I think you want to save yourself for the character development, the plot development, what works, what doesn't, as far as the story itself is concerned.
Thank you.
If I can inject a thought here. Also, the sounding board, for instance, it's almost a hybrid critique group, because the real thrust of this is to bring something that we can read or even have someone else read. And then we do a soft critique that's oral and immediate. So it's a slightly different structure for that particular group because we wanted the emphasis to be on getting the pieces read.
We have had critique groups in the past that have worked just exactly like that.
Yeah. In fact, I was in one about 12 years ago. Yeah.
And-
on Word, you can highlight a section and it'll put a little box like you might suggest turning the words around or maybe reconstructing the sentence to make it a little better. It goes pretty quick. And then when you have your face-to-face, you can say, well, it would sound a little better to me anyway, that if you went this way. So anyway, it's just a suggestion. You're not beating on the person. So
another thing, Tom, that happens is often when the author is reading, you can see their intent just by the way they read it.
right.
And then you can say, hey, I can see what you meant, but look, if you change these two words or if you make this change or whatever, you'll actually be serving your purpose better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a different kind of critique, but it's definitely a critique and it's very helpful.
I like it.
Sounds intriguing.
And I think what this is showing is that, again, it comes back to the group itself. The group has to define what it wants. When I meet with Richard and Freddie, they give me a very thorough critique, usually where they do the editing and they also do the commenting, and sometimes we get in debates, and it's really a very lively kind of group. But every group, I think, has to take on its own personality and its own rules and what it wants. The key is make sure you're getting what you want out of that particular group. Make sure it's meeting your needs and make your needs known.
Exactly.
And one more thing is when we're not sure, we'll say, "Oh, Jenny will fix it."
Yeah.
It's always my statement. Number 9 is feedback will be given in writing, either directly or on a manuscript or typed on the paper. I don't know how the sounding board goes, but
It's just orally.
It's just orally. Sometimes you got that many members, that's all you can do. But ideally speaking, try to get it a written critique. 10, criticism should be constructive and diplomatic. Boy, I was in a critique group and this former member just told another member, you're a bad writer. It was just
Remember,
don't go there.
that destroyed that member's confidence in
Not with us in our group. We're merciful. We have no mercy in teasing each other. We give each other the finger. Oh my gosh. If there's anybody sensitive, send them our way. We'll toughen them up.
Can I just remind everybody we are being recorded?
Well, we're close
Leave it to
anyway.
Lynn.
On the other hand, though, you're not in a critique group just to be somebody's cheerleader. It
That's
doesn't
right.
do
Yeah.
anybody any good if all you say is it's perfect, it's wonderful, I couldn't have done better. I
Yeah.
don't care how good you are, there's always something that you can at least comment on and say, well, I maybe would look at doing this, or how about expanding this, or that doesn't work for me. Just saying it's perfect, it's wonderful, next submission, please, doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and I
And
attest.
we've become so close. Yeah, I mean, it's just been a good therapy group.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, because I belong to Richard's and Lynn's and Janice's group, and I've gotten some of the best criticism because it actually forced me to go back and rethink what I was doing and how I was trying to put it into a good narrative. And yeah, it gets a lot of fun and it gets right down to the nitty gritty, but that's okay. I like it. That's the kind of stuff I need to hear. That's the kind of stuff I need to, feel as a writer. I'm a new writer. I haven't published anything. These guys have a lot more experience and I'm trying to benefit from that. So yeah.
But we're not criticizing you, it's critiques.
Well, that's another thing too that I think is super important, Lynn, that you just said, is that we're criticizing the work, not the worker.
We're critiquing the work, not criticizing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't take it And I mean, you guys, you can suck.
Except for Janice's.
Yeah, it's
I'm kidding.
you know, yeah, I think it's super important that whatever bantering there is, like there is in most of the groups I'm in, it's good nature.
Yeah.
And it comes out of a confidence that you have because you've already established a relationship with the people that are in there. But it's always good natured and and we critique the writing, not the writer.
Right. We critique, not criticize. Critique.
And what's helpful for me is I'll let you particularly my wife gets to see all this thing first. So I said, "Did that work for you?" And she said, "No, it fell flat on its face." You know, I thought it was pretty clever, right? She'll go, "No." So anyway, back to the drawing board. So it's very, very, she's being frank. That's what I want. So
I saw an interview with Billy Joel, and he talked about how he had the same band with him all through his career. And he said they had this kind of relationship, and he would come in and he'd say, "I've got a new song," and he would play it, and they would all just go away. That is not a song for us. He did one of his songs, really famous song, but when he brought it to them originally, it was a calypso song. He said, "You can't pull off a calypso song. You can't do that." And so it made him go back and rewrite it and turn it into one of his biggest hits. But it's having that trust, building that trust over time, and everybody there wants the best, the quality. You're just all there for the work, like Richard said.
Yeah.
I read a book called it's what the movie Cool Hand Luke was based on, a book. And if you compare the way he wrote Cool Hand Luke and the way they rewrote it into a script, you'll see the brilliance. Because had they made the movie just like the book, it would have gone absolutely nowhere. So
it happens.
It does.
So
okay, Mike's going to continue.
11. Each group, critique group should have a leader. Okay, I make it a point when because they're a contact person. Also, there should be a leader for the session too. It doesn't have to be the group leader, but somebody should lead the session. 12. When a manuscript is being criticized, the authors expect to listen. Okay, not interrupt or be defensive. In general, the author should not respond until the critique is finished or unless he or she is asked a direct question. Members should keep in mind that critiques are suggestions for improving a writer's work from the viewpoint of the reader. It's been said many times, you're the author, you decide, but they are suggestions. 13 suggestions should be considered, but do not have to be implemented, just like I said. 14, when given a critique, if possible, begin and end with positive comments, with constructive criticism in the middle. Be specific as possible, keeping comments directly to the work itself. When reviewing a submission, do not try to rewrite that work as you would have written it. That's kind of hard to do sometimes. I kind of teeter on the fence with that. But 16, if the subject or genre is not your favorite, remember each writer deserves your attention to the best of your ability. Okay. 17, strive to give each member equal time. That's not always easy too, but try your best. 18, if you miss a critique, email your comments to the other members ASP. That's especially applies to Zoom, I guess. 19, if a group finds a member is absent a lot or not doing the required work, members are within their rights to point this out, diplomatically, of course. 20, if a member drops out of a group for a time, that member is not guaranteed a spot in his or hers original group upon return. 21, if all members in a group are in agreement, they can elect not to email their submissions, but instead bring written copies for each member of the group. The written submissions will be passed out to each member and read aloud one at a time. This will be followed by having the other members given a verbal and preferably written critique. We got a lot of live groups right now. I prefer to Zoom because I don't have to get out of my pajamas to go someplace. But it's great. Now we're doing real good. We have 7 groups right now. I just updated. And that's good. I'm always encouraging. I'm trying to get another group. I do have a new member looking for a critique group right now. So I'll be sending out an email blast. I've noticed several members in multiple groups, like Richard and Mike and 1 or 2 others, I believe. And we got a poetry group, and we have anything goes kind of groups, and we had a sci-fi group, but that kicked the bucket. So, any questions?
Yeah, and that just one point on that. A critique group lasts as long as it lasts, as long as everybody's working together, but life happens and some people move away and other people get new jobs or they get busy and they can't do the group anymore. There's a fluidity to this that we have to recognize and not get upset if a group falls apart. It just happens.
It happens all the time. I've been in about 5 or 6 critique groups. At one time, I was in 3 critique groups at one time.
Wow.
Also, the leaders, they need to contact me if there are changes. I'm trying to keep track. Like somebody drops out, email me. Okay, somebody approached you and wants to join, refer them to me.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. What does a bad critique group look like? Members who are opinionated and are not learning. I take it on myself as a writer to always be try always to be learning.
Mhm.
I want to learn the craft. And that's why I enjoy so much all the different outlets that we have where we can help each other to grow and to mature in our writing. And I think most of our members are like this. But if you've got a person in your group that is not growing and they think they know everything and they want everybody to listen to them, that could be irritating. Members who are trying to get you to write their way, that is really irritating when somebody thinks they know how you should write. Or if somebody just tells you, oh, it was good. They hand you back your story, no comments, nothing written on it, and they just say it was good.
Oh, shoot.
That's not what you want in a critique group. You want some meat on the bones. Or if they just tell you it was bad. I had a woman, I was in a critique group once, and she used to write YCBT. And what it meant was, you can do better than this.
Yeah.
What an insult. What a slap in the face. And again, never explained what was wrong with it. Just wrote that abbreviation that I could do better than this. That's not helpful. Members who have no passion for writing, especially your writing. One of the things I do love about being in this club is I love it when people are successful. When I read something like one of Tom Foley's stories, and it just thrills me, I celebrate that. And I think we should all care about each other's writing. We're like a big team together. And when somebody succeeds, we all succeed. So I think that's important. You want to be with people that really care about your success. And then you don't want to be with people exactly like you. I think diversity is really healthy in a critique group. You get people with different genders, different ideas, different backgrounds, different ages. All this diversity promotes different points of view, and you really want to know how your writing sounds to different people. And then members who don't listen to what you tell when you tell them what you want, that could make for a bad group. Again, you tell them you really want them to look at the plot and tell you whether it's working, and they're too busy looking at other things. And then again, members who are mean and are passive aggressive in critique. I've been in one group in particular where the person used their platform to cut other people in the group, and 1,000 cuts can be really damaging. So these are what makes for a bad critique group. What if you have had a bad experience? Okay, and I really want to emphasize this. Don't cheat yourself out of a good experience with a positive critique group just because you had a bad experience. I have heard so many times people say, I don't do critique groups because I was in a bad one. That's like saying I don't have any friends because I had a bad friend once. Or I'm just never gonna care for anybody again because I was in a bad relationship once. No, a good critique group can really change your life. It really is life changing. So if you've had a bad experience, let it go, get into a good critique group, start having some good experiences. And then if you have to leave a group, do it graciously. And even if the group is it's not for you, or it has been unpleasant for you or whatever, leave graciously. Don't make enemies out of the people. Don't give them the finger on the way out. Talking to you, Lynn. I'm talking to you, Lynn.
I didn't give the finger. I got one.
Well, thank you for not giving it to me.
Oh, no, I wouldn't, but in all honesty, we tease back and forth and I just absolutely love her. So
Well, I do too. I love the camaraderie and you just get to a depth of relationship where you can really make fun and have a good time.
yes.
Okay, so what if you're ready to join a group? If you've decided to join a critique group, you need to contact Mr. Raff here. And that's his email. It's mpr7@aol.com. And that is his phone number.
And it doesn't have to be capitalized, okay?
No, that's just the font for this the slide. But yeah, if you're interested, contact Mr. Raff, let him know. If you're not in a critique group, honestly, I think critique groups are the best thing about a writing club. I think it's the heart of the writing club is the critique group.
That's why I joined in the first place. I wanted to be in a critique group.
Yep.
I have a real quick comment.
Sure, go ahead.
When you were talking about, you've mentioned it several times, be sure and tell your critique group members what it is you're looking for in the critique group. I would put a little caveat on that. I was in a critique group once where the member very specifically said, I'm not looking to be told what's wrong with it. I'm looking to be told what works.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
You can't be quite that specific. You gotta be a little more open-minded than that.
Maybe she should look at the page in the dictionary that defines the word critique.
That's right.
But I mean, if you know the story's good, but say, look, I'm really not sure about this particular character, give me feedback on this character, those kinds of specifics. Yeah, but just to say, I'm not looking to be told what's wrong with it, I just want to know what works. You don't belong in a critique group then.
It's hard because when I'm in our critique group, one of my critique groups in particular, when it's my turn and they've got my writing and they're going over it, there just something inside of me. It's hard to listen to criticism, even positive criticism, and it's always positive. But there, a lot of people, I could see how they would avoid that feeling of being in the spotlight and being analyzed, and it feels a little bit like I feel when I go to the dentist.
That's
Just-
bad.
No, that same feeling of anxiety comes up, and we just have to get past that. We just have to say, you know what, this is so important. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to experience anxiety. I'm willing to have people tell me if things are right or wrong, or if they like it or don't like it. That's just the price I have to pay to be a writer.
You know, another thing
It's a
that I think we need to grow in our own confidence and our own sense of self. And
Yes.
remember that these are opinions and,
Everybody's got one.
Yep, that's
that
right.
It's a whole lot easier to fall down on carpet than concrete, and a critique group criticism is a whole lot better than an Amazon review that slams you.
And that's a good point, because if we actually do break through the ceiling and we get agents and we get published, then you've got a whole world critiquing you and criticizing you and saying how good or how bad they think you are. So if we can't handle being in our own with our own people, we're not going to be able to handle that either.
But
Right.
you also have to have enough confidence in your own writing abilities and in your own voice. You can't please everybody all the time.
Right.
That's
So
right.
that's why you guys you mentioned it several times. You don't have to accept everybody's critique. You don't have to accept everybody's suggestions, because I don't care what the book is, there are people who hate it and there are people who love it. So at some point you have to stop rewriting for the 411th time and say, this is what I wanted to say.
I got something to add to that. There's sometimes, at first it feels like it's not a fair critique or whatever, but go back, consider it later, because sometimes your first feelings are a little bit off because it has an impact on you. And one guy, he would tear people's stuff up, but when I would go back and look, and most of the time he was right. It wasn't diplomatic.
You know, it reminds me of something I heard where Gertrude Stein had commissioned a portrait from Picasso.
Wow.
And so Picasso painted the painting, obviously. And then they delivered it and put it up where she wanted it, over a mantelpiece or something. And a couple of weeks later, she was talking to Picasso and she says, I don't like it. It doesn't look like me. And Picasso said, it will. And, and you know what? A few months later, she came to him and she goes, you know, you're right.
Yeah.
Because it took time for her to understand his interpretation of what he painted. And it's the same with us sometimes. If we're a little confident in our work and somebody doesn't get it, it shouldn't shake us to the bone.
Okay.
You know. So it's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that's been helpful for me is, well, and for all of us, we totally know what we intend to write. No problem with that. Now, what ends up on the page, that's something different. But one person in the critique group says, well, I don't get this, la, 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 la. And the other people say, oh, no, this makes sense to me. But when everybody in the critique group says, I don't get it, I mean, that is totally the red flag of, yeah, okay, I know what my work is going to be here. Because, yeah, I mean, I tease a lot of times, well, I know what I meant. How come you can't read my mind? But that's probably good. No one can read my mind.
You know what's funny too is when the author tells you what they meant and it's not what they said.
Right.
You know? Well, that's not what you said. Okay,
Yep.
I'm going to roll this up. Hope to see you all in a critique group if you're not already in one. I think most of the people that I'm looking at, you guys are in critique groups, which I think
Not
are
all of
wonderful.
them.
Not all
Please
of them,
email
though.
me, phone me if you're interested in joining up, okay? It's an important tool to have.
I think I'm kind of an honorary member in all of them because I get emails from everybody going, in my last critique group, and then they'll say, what about this and this and this? And so then I answer them. So
Any last questions or I think we are done.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys
Very good,
so
guys.
Oh, I
much.
have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Of course you do.
Bob Isabel thingamajig.
Thingamajig.
That has nothing to do with the anthology. You said 15 we're going to go into the anthology, but what if we don't
No,
want to go
they're
into?
going into the ink slinger, Lynn. not the
That's a
anthology.
totally different thing. Yeah.
no, you're going to put them in your digital magazine, I thought.
Yeah. Well,
So if they're going to go in the digital magazine, then they can't go in the anthology.
That's what I'm curious because I
Uh,
remember you saying it's going into the anthology, but then anyway, I was just curious because I want to
That's
know where it goes and I want to say if it can go.
That's a good catch, Lynn. Yeah, if you want to put it in the anthology, don't submit it into the magazine.
What?
Richard.
Okay, Richard's putting together a digital magazine, and he was
Oh.
going to print every one of the people who submitted for the Bob Isbill Award in his digital magazine. If you want to take your Bob Isbill submission and put it in this coming anthology, do not send it to Richard to go into the digital magazine. It's one or the other, not both places.
Because we can't print it in the anthology if it's been printed somewhere else.
And digital ebooks are still, that's why I went printed.
But isn't it already submitted? Do we have to submit it again to get it in the?
No, it's not printed.
If you want it in Richard's e-magazine that he's coming out with, if you want your Bob Isbill Award submission to go into Richard's magazine, you need to send him the file. But if you do, then you cannot also submit it to the upcoming anthology.
wherever you want it to go, it needs to be submitted.
So
Yeah.
my question is, it's not automatic because
That's what I
did
thought too.
say
I
that
thought
it was automatic. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because I don't want mine in any of them yet.
And
I haven't changed.
and we'll contact the
Okay.
authors first. We're not just going to grab your stuff and publish it without your permission.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We don't do that. Okay, we are done. I'm going to stop recording.